there you have it. The finale of Eminence in Shadow second season. Holy crap. Where to start? Where do I start? Obviously, I guess to get the news out there that yes, after the finale of Eminence in Shadow second season, they announced that they're going to be doing a movie. That seems to be like the thing to do anymore, is all these TV series that just have movies out of nowhere. It's an unfortunate trend. Hopefully, I guess the plus is that maybe the movie can actually have higher production values. I doubt it, but that's the direction they're going. It's going to have a movie. It's been announced. There you go. And obviously based on how the episode ends, the finale ends, we can obviously tell where that movie is going to go, which direction. But yeah, where do I start? The overall episode, okay. It was a lot less production values than I was hoping. I was figuring the big fight, we're going to have some crazy animation. They kept to the standard they've kind of done, which is a lot of sliding stills, a couple of really good animation shots, a lot of accented stills that make it a lot more impactful and whatnot. And yes, the fights themselves were pretty predictable. They're going to take down Mordred, and over here you have Sid's going to do his one-shotting and do his atomic thing, because every season has to end with him saying, "I am atomic." That's fine, whatever. I know that people love that signature. I enjoyed it for the first few times, but now I'm kind of tired of it. But no, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is obviously opening up with Mordred, what he ends up talking about, which is that the Cult of Diablos apparently has discovered that there is multiple realms, and they're all circling a central point, which I can assume at this point, that central point is probably going to be, yes, it could be our world, the original world that Sid is from. I doubt it. My assumption is that that central point is going to be something in the future. Some god at the very end that Sid's going to come in and say, "I'm atomic," and it blows up and it dies, and we all go, "Oh my gosh, that was Sugoi." But no, it is implying this idea of like our realm, their realm, the realm of monsters, the dead, the ice, the fire. They all circle this one point. And it seems like that's the point in which things can collide and things happen. The assumption is that Sid, from his previous life, when he died, possibly that was the point in which it collided with the world that he is in now, that he is now returned away from. And yes, they're using this colliding point to bring other things. And apparently the world that Sid was in, that was a world that at some point in the past collided with the world of magic, and that magic came into the world and kind of flourished. He's also kind of implying this idea that civilizations, humans from other realms, came to that world at that time as well. It says that all the way up to this one point, magic appeared, and humans survived where everything else died. And so it's kind of implying this idea, and yes, technically implying even more, since they show this one person standing there with a watch on, that yes, people from other worlds, maybe our world, came to the world 10 million years prior and advanced in that world with the magic that was there. Which is kind of an interesting thing to kind of open the door to the idea of at least the series itself having Sid able to go to multiple realms over time, and it leaves the opportunity open for multiple story arcs to happen because, okay, Sid Shadow in the realm of fire, that's that arc or whatever. It opens the future to a lot of different story arcs. Additionally, it technically answers the questions that I've had for the series for a long time. Specifically, whenever Sid was going traveling with Rose, and at some point off the side, away from the train, you've seen these big monuments, these big towers and whatnot. One of them looked like a futuristic space tower or something like that. But it kind of answers the question that's possibly technology that was brought over from another world that has kind of been ruined over time. It didn't seem like ancient ruins, it seemed like something futuristic. So that kind of answers that question. It seems like this world has been sort of inundated with magic, humans possibly, and different technologies that has been lost over the ages. So it's kind of interesting kind of twist to add to the whole realm of the world itself, and again, opens the door to possible future arcs. But yes, that all ties into how the episode concludes, which is after defeating Ragnarok with the one-shot thingy, defeating Mordred that's merged with Ragnarok. Yes, eventually this little portal is still open, and Sid decides to touch it, and it sucks him through. And that assumption there is that that's the point in which the worlds are colliding, and he was able to return back to his previous world, which, based on the information that we just got from Mordred, technically opens up the idea that our original world, the world that Sid was originally from, has had that happen as well. Magic or something has been introduced to that world. It opens up with our original girl, which, man, at this point I forgot what her name is. Akane, I think? Akane, which was the girl from the very first episode of first season, who was saved by Sid. Akane is waking up, and it seems like a post-apocalyptic world. She is still in her uniform from school. It seems like whatever happened to the world happened probably around then, that she's never had a change of clothes. She's waking up, she's going out to do her usual looking around. The world's destroyed. They're warning her not to go out because apparently whatever's destroying the world is out there at that time and possibly more dangerous at night. But she's still like walking around. She's even talking about Sid in her mind, about this guy that she really didn't like, that was super normal, whatever. And then, yes, trying to kind of tie it in thematically with the original first appearance of her. Yes, she gets kidnapped the exact same way, kidnapped by the exact same people, and then, yes, gets saved by Sid, who beats up the exact same people. It's all kind of playing one for one like the scenario happened with the first episode, just in a different way. The addition that they're kind of adding with that whole story is that, yes, 1, something attacked the world and is destroying it. 2, it seems like they're deeming Akane as being some sort of special person, a savior, that she has some sort of noble knight's power. And again, if we're tying it with what Mordred said, that means that the world that Sid came from, that we're returning back to, has been inundated with some sort of magical power. She seems to be one of the few people that is gaining that power. It could be somehow tied in with the original Diablos that they're kind of talking about, because Mordred gave a lot of emphasis in the idea that, yes, not Diablo themselves, but the power that they mimicked of Diablo was from one of these realms. And it's possible that realm also came to the original world as well, and is sort of empowering it as well. So they might have the same concept that we have with all the girls of Shadow Garden that were infused by this power, additionally being applied to Akane and other people that were in Sid's original world. So I'll be interested to see how that kind of plays out, but it does seem like, despite the fact that it seems like there's something attacking the original world, there's also groups that want to, for some reason, stop Akane, or at least her bloodline, or at least capture her so that they can use her bloodline or whatever. So we'll see how that all plays out, but yes, she's in trouble, he shows up, beats him up, all that kind of stuff. They also imply an idea of advancing of technologies, at least. It does seem like the assumption is there's a lot of time that has passed since Sid has been there. Assuming that maybe he was 16 or something like that, if they were in high school or whatever, she was about 16. It's been 4 years since that happened. So it does at least confirm the idea that the timelines between Sid's original world that he was first born in and the second world that he was born in, their timelines are a lot different. Because again, back here when he saved Akane, he dies and then he gets transported to this other world and lives in that world until he's older. But then he returns back to the original world and only about 4 years has passed. So the assumption there is that, again, the timelines are a lot different. Time passes differently. I am kind of curious if the world that he's returning to is possibly the world that he was talking about, Mordred was talking about, which is the world of the dead. The world of death, or the realm of death, which is a world that is full of, colorless tombstones, which kind of technically plays into the key art they released for the movie that's coming up. It just shows a bunch of tombstones, and it seems like the world that Akane is in, his original world, is full of death. So it all kind of connects in some way. Again, my question mark is going to be, what is attacking the world? Is it going to possibly be the ones from the first realm, which they mimic the idea of Diablos for? Maybe they attacked the original world that Sid is from, and the magic kind of infused people, and again, there's a lot of groups that are trying to stop, I don't know why, the nobles from fighting the bad guys. Or at least maybe they just want to control that power for themselves, is probably what it's going to be. Or maybe concepts of the cult of Diablos, based on that concept, has been bled into the original world. A lot of possibilities they can open up to. Hopefully it does something interesting. This is like one of the very rare few times that I'm kind of excited for what possibly the story can go into going forward, including all these realms and them kind of merging and bleeding into each other. But no, I do have to admit that it was really great seeing Akane coming back, just because, like, again, the original first season, I've always been kind of hoping that she'd come back at some point because, yes, the Seiyu, Horie, really love her Seiyu, and so it was great to have her come back. Her demeanor from back then was very interesting as well, so, but I always assumed at that point that she got obsessed with Sid and possibly, took her own self out in order to follow him over to the other world, but seems that's not the case. And yes, I do realize that this next arc, or this movie, does technically insinuate that the Shadow Garden is not going to even be involved at all with the next storyline. Yes, I do fully acknowledge that he left Shadow Garden behind, so the entire movie, this next arc, until he returns back home, is not going to have any Shadow Garden. The main reason why Andrew enjoys this series is Shadow Garden, and he's going to be without them for a long time. But again, at least we get Akane. Outside of all that, yes, it was great to see Rose somewhat step up, take her leadership role. The maid even acknowledged her as the queen, kind of delegating people, getting people to safety, acknowledging the idea that she needs to trust in the Shadow Garden to help them out. That stuff was great. Had a little brief moment of what is Victoria going to do? Is she going to attack? Is she going to attack Rose? But it seems like she followed the orders of Epsilon. She held her hand. Like, okay, it seems like yes, indeed, Shadow did not kill her. So that means that Shadow needs to use her. That was all kind of interesting. And yeah, other than that, pretty much everything else kind of played out as expected. Interested to see where it goes from here. Cult of Diablo seems to be very much so entrenched in the concept of the other realms and how that's affecting them and possibly how they get their abilities. So I'll be curious to see, again, how that kind of plays out going forward, or just how long it is going to be before he returns. It was also kind of interesting to kind of see a little bit insight into the Black Rose. Now, what Mordred sort of implies is that the Oriana Kingdom apparently somehow activated this portal, this pseudo portal, this thing that opened up to another realm. A bunch of monsters came through, wiped out this entire kingdom, and it was the Cult Diablos that came in, or at least the folks in the round, they came in and they stopped the portal. But it seems like this is the weird part, because they're implying that, okay, it has this technology to open a portal, and we closed the portal, but we allowed them to keep one of the keys to open the portal, and they were supposed to give up Rose, who had this bloodline, in order to, as essentially payment for what they did. And then the king decided at some point not to do that. It just seems kind of weird in the idea of, okay, they're implying this idea that they had this technology to open up this pseudo portal, but then they let them keep that technology, and then they wanted payment, and then they came to get that payment, so he's going to wipe it out because they didn't pay. That was a really weird little line of comments there. Maybe that's better explained in the novel series, or maybe it's just kind of a throwaway thing to give them an excuse to have to get Rose. Who knows? I know they, again, technically imply this idea of the bloodline and everything being very powerful, and it could be a lot to do with the fact that they didn't take the ring because for some reason it's tied in with their bloodline. That's why they needed Rose. They wanted to marry Rose to put him into the bloodline in order to control that. So it kind of implies that technology just is something they couldn't take. As much as they wanted that power, they couldn't take it. Anyways, that is my thoughts on the finale of Eminence Shadow second season. Definitely enjoyed going through the series, and I thank everybody for dropping by on a weekly basis to check out my video content on it. It was a lot of fun the first season, even though I had my criticisms and people didn't like that. I was glad to see that a lot of people kind of stuck around and enjoy my take on the whole thing despite that. But that is it. Overall, I think the season had some very weak points. I especially thought the whole segment with the banks and everything was an incredibly weak little segment. But I think the very first segment with the Blood Moon and Mary and Elizabeth was really fantastic, and I like how this particular arc ended overall. So I got a good chunk, a nice chewy bit of content from this season either way. So hopefully y'all stick around for more content as we go into the following season, and eventually one of these days, whenever the movie comes over here, I'll check it out and let you guys know my thoughts on it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what's thought of the series as a whole and this episode and the crazy twist in it. If you're a novel reader, I don't need answers for any of the questions I've made. I just like to speculate on stuff and have fun with it. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you got my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly, greatly appreciate everybody does. And y'all take care.